have to find the magnet because it's missing in action. Here it is. Hare Krishna. I'll have to charge that case. Put that back in there and charge it. So, because of the influence Prabhupada had on us, after Prabhupada left, it was much different than it is now. The thinking of the leaders was more in terms of massive spreading of Krishna consciousness. What do we have to do to make our city Krishna conscious? How will the world become Krishna conscious? That's how we were thinking. And I don't know what year it was. It may have been like 1978 or 1979. But the GBC was discussing how to make the world Krishna conscious. That was their agenda. That's how they thought. By isn't it? Like, you look at the GBC resolutions now, there's nothing about how, by 2030 we'll make the world Krishna conscious. But in those days it was. So there was strategy and plan and a vision to how to make the world Krishna conscious. You might say we're a bunch of fools, young fools. Maybe so. We obviously didn't know how to do it, otherwise we would have done it. But my point is, that's how we were thinking. Because that's how Prabhupada was thinking. And I'm sure you've thought many times, how can the world be Krishna conscious? There's so few people. We're just a ragtag band of a few devotees trying to make some impression on people. Nobody seems interested. Nobody's joining, etc. Those thoughts go through our mind. And even if things are expanding and joining, it's so small, right? I remember in the early days of the movement, if you made one or two devotees in a year, you were like very excited. Tell all your friends, we made 2 devotees this year. From the scale of spreading Krishna consciousness broadly, that's pretty much a failure. Anyway, Prabhupada never thought it was a failure, but sometimes it can be discouraging to think we're putting out so much energy. How is this going to have an effect? At least we can understand that from Prabhupada's perspective, the holy name has the power to change hearts. It's just a question of people doing it. But if they did it, it would make a difference. That's Prabhupada's vision. So when you read purports like this, it's kind of like if people chanted Hare Krishna without offense, we could create a similar condition as existed in Satya Yuga. That's the power of the holy name. And Srila Prabhupada definitely had that faith. We may not have it, but he had that faith. And one time, a devotee asked Prabhupada for a strategy to spread Krishna consciousness, and Prabhupada said, get them to chant Hare Krishna, and everything will happen, your business is finished. Get them to chant, the chanting will do it all. That's interesting, isn't it? That was Prabhupada's faith. And we can say, well, we got so many people to chant and we've never seen them again and whatever, right? Prabhupada doesn't see it like that. Some people question the validity of, you go out in Harinam, the people, Haribo, like that, and we go and they go and it's all over. We do Rath Yatra and everything's great, and then we go and they go and we never see them. And why we spend 25,000 on Rath Yatra? Why spend 25,000 on Rath Yatra? You could spend it on so many things. But Prabhupada wanted Rath Yatra in every city. He wanted people to see Jagannath and hear the holy name. So these things have effect. We may not see it, but if they don't have effect, then Prabhupada wouldn't have pushed it, right? Yeah. So, the thing that is so inspiring, that inspired us when we were with Prabhupada, is to feel that we're actually doing something significant on the planet to change things. Like Prabhupada said, we're creating a revolution in the impious lives of a misdirected civilization. So that's pretty inspiring. If someone says, well, what's your job? What's your occupation? So I'm creating a revolution in the misdirected lives of materialistic civilization. That's pretty inspiring. I was like, wow, really? Yeah. Not your job title, but your job function. Yeah, we're creating a revolution. A spiritual revolution. That's our job. So that's inspiring, isn't it? Create a spiritual revolution. Anyway, that was Prabhupada's vision, and if you connect with that vision, then your spreading of Krishna consciousness takes on a new enthusiasm. This is what I'm doing, creating a revolution. And as we discussed before, I think we discussed here before, maybe not here, but yeah, I was in Italy. That sometimes Prabhupada was asked about the influence of our movement, like, because we don't see externally so much influence. So you'd ask about it, devotees would say, the world seems to be changing, does it have anything to do with us? And Prabhupada said, yeah. This interest in spirituality, the interest in vegetarianism and karma and all of that, he said, yeah, it's because of the Sankirtan. I think the most profound thing, as Prabhupada said, because of the Sankirtan there wouldn't be war. That's like huge. Because of the distribution of books and the distribution of the holy name, Krishna decided there wouldn't be war. That's what Prabhupada said. World War III is cancelled because the Hare Krishna movement is expanding. That's like, that's an interesting article. That would be an interesting article for Newsweek. And you might say, I don't know about that, we're like insignificant, etc. We're smaller now than we were before, and so many things. Anyway, Prabhupada said that. Hare Krishna. Wow, just what I needed. How do these rock stars do? Like, sing every night? I guess they don't sing for 2 hours non-stop, do they? Fisherman's friend. Hare Krishna. So, it's so beautiful when you're spreading Krishna consciousness to think, well, actually, we're part of a revolution, we're changing the world. And what's even more beautiful, we should have a t-shirt. There's a t-shirt they printed, I think it was for the Prabhupada's movie. It says Spiritual Revolutionary. Have you seen that t-shirt? I have one, maybe I gave it away. Spiritual Revolutionary. Here's a line for you on Sankirtan, or preaching anywhere. Would you like to change the world? Because if they say yes, they're already so much closer to becoming Krishna conscious. Because you say that's great because that's what we're doing and these books are doing it. Of course, if everybody says no, then you always have to ask questions where the answer is yes. But in terms of the kind of people we would want to attract, say, we're creating a revolution. Would you like to be part of it? A spiritual revolution, changing materialistic. We want to pull materialistic society down, crush it. You want to be part of that. Anyway, you could experiment with that. But for us, at least, and for many people, that's very inspiring. And so that's what we're doing. And that story I told about the bricklayers, you may have heard 2 bricklayers are building a cathedral. One of them's really inspired because he sees that he's participating in laying bricks that are going to make a beautiful cathedral. And the other one doesn't have that vision, so he's just bored laying bricks. So they ask him, what are you doing? He says, I'm laying bricks, it's boring. The other one, what are you doing? I'm building this beautiful cathedral and millions of people are going to come and get God and all that. So, something like that. Yeah, what are you doing? My guru asked me to sell these books. You don't want one, do you? What are you doing? What are you doing? We're creating a spiritual revolution. Don't you think the world needs a spiritual revolution? Don't you think it's like things are not looking good? Yeah, they're not looking good. Don't you think it's kind of out of control? We have technology, but the consciousness behind it could be dangerous. Yeah, we're creating a revolution so that doesn't happen. If you want to attract people, that's a really good way to attract them. Anyway, we have any questions or comments? We have a question from the kitchen.
I have a question on that, but out of topic. I'm sure you mentioned during COVID a lot of this questions. What would your instructions would be on our final days?
Oh, what to do in our final days? Eat a lot of gulab jamuns. I think Krishna will prepare you in your final days. Final days will be good. There was Shrutakirti was telling a story about his former wife's final days. She had cancer in the hip. Any pain in the body is uncomfortable. You can't sleep. What to speak of cancer in the hip? It's very painful. And so many amazing things happened to her in the last few weeks of her life, or a few months. The dreams she had, she'd dream of Prabhupada would come and talk to her, and she'd see Gaur Nitai in the spiritual world, and all kinds of things. And we've heard many stories of devotees having similar experiences. So he said that although she was in pain, she said it was the best time of my life. Because she got so much mercy, like Krishna is preparing us. So of course, when it's time to die, you have to, stop resisting. You might resist to try to stay alive, but at a point where that's not working, then you have to let go of every attachment. A devotee told me a story. Two devotees told me stories, and I can't remember the details. But both stories, in effect, were something happened, like an accident or something, where they left their body. These are two very similar stories. They left their body, or they were leaving their body, or they were out of their body, and they both came back in their body because they both thought of their children, and as soon as they thought of their children, they went back in the body. Two separate stories. Interesting, isn't it? Like they were out of their body and everything was good. They said, what about my kids? They went right back in the body. Hare Krishna. How will my kids live without me? So it was like Krishna was letting them leave, but their consciousness went back in the body. So, then we hear, like, why do they burn bodies? They say, well, because people are attached to their bodies, and then they won't, when it's time to leave their body, they won't go into another body, but they'll hover around their body. So just burn it. At least I don't have a Shastric reference, but that idea is there, that there can be attachment to the body. And it's interesting, to think about what we're attached to and how difficult it is to give up. Sometimes it's very difficult to give up one thing. And when you die, you're giving up everything. So you can't give up one thing, how can you give up everything? So, something to consider. But if you've done devotional service all your life, you've been a sincere devotee, then certainly Krishna will help you. And there's a verse, I'm not sure where it's from. The verse says, if at the time of death you forget Krishna, you're his devotee, he won't forget you. Because maybe you're just like, I'm sure you've seen people die or close to it, and so sometimes you're just out of control. When I was in the hospital, I had a little glimpse of how difficult it's going to be to die because I was so weak. I didn't have energy. It takes energy to control your mind. You don't realize it until you don't have the energy to do it. I didn't have the energy to do it. I was thinking, this would be difficult to die in this situation because I have no strength to focus. I couldn't focus. It was difficult to focus. So, but then I thought, well, you're a devotee all your life, so Krishna says, I'll carry what you lack. So, you may lack the energy and the ability to focus, maybe because of the pain or the shock of it all. But our faith is that Prabhupada said we go back to Krishna if we follow his orders. So then we have faith that Krishna will, make up for what we lack. One of our godbrothers was dying and he was leaving his body. Everybody said chant, and he was like, I don't know if he was in a coma or what. But right before he died, he finally, he hadn't been able to speak maybe for days, and he finally said, Hare Krishna. And then he left his body. So it was glorious. And of course, we're practiced to chant. So when there's danger, we generally chant Hare Krishna, although sometimes we go, It's better become a little more Krishna conscious. Krishna, most devotees, if the cars, looks like it's going to slip off the road and run into something, it's Krishna, 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 Krishna. So we're very conditioned, maybe more conditioned than we think, to think of Krishna in danger. But then another answer to your question is, well, everything you're doing now is preparation for that. That's the idea, that's the final exam. So you have that verse in second canto, the Narayana Smriti, the perfection is to remember Narayan at the end of life. And, Shastra says, your test is at the end, all your bhakti. Like, what kind of devotee are you? How do you know? Well, you'll find out at the end what kind of devotee you are. That's where your devotion will be tested. And so far what I've seen is that Prabhupada's there to help, and most devotees pass the test with flying colors because we're practiced our whole life. And this is a very, very important point. If we get this point, it's going to help us a lot. This world has difficulties, obviously. And a lot of times when there's difficulties, we don't face them well. We break down. Or some devotees stop chanting, or just go into depression, so many things. But the difficulties you face at death are going to be much more difficult than the ones you face when you're in good health. And so the whole idea is to practice in this life transcending, or at least, if you can't transcend, at least learning to tolerate duality. Like we say, tolerate happiness, tolerate distress. So how much distress is there going to be when you leave your body? And if you've never practiced, if you're not good at tolerating duality, how are you possibly going to tolerate that? Because that's worse. So that's really important. So every time some difficulty comes and we break down, it's like, oh, failed that test. I'm one, how am I going to pass the final? You're failing all your tests in class and you think you're going to pass the final, right? But if you're passing your test, there's a good chance you'll get a good grade on the final. So like, I got very upset and whatever. My bhakti was affected, my sadhana was affected, my service was affected, whatever. It's like, well, failed that test. That's that much harder for the final exam. Go back and study and prepare for the final exam. Next time this happens, go through it with some stability. So that's really, really important, because the idea given in Shastra is, as we said, death is your final exam. If death is your final exam, all the difficulties are your tests in preparation for that exam. Yes? That's a good one for Facebook. Can somebody write that down? If death is the final exam, all your difficulties are tests preparing you for the final exam. And you could send that to Satya Rupa. Okay? Thank you. Yes?
You have a series on YouTube about death.
Oh, yeah.
90 videos.
We read everything that Prabhupada said about death. I guess it's on, it must be on YouTube under a certain section.
Yeah.
During COVID we just searched everything Prabhupada said about dying. And it took us, I was doing 5 classes a week or 7 a week for a while. So that was 93 divided by 7. So it was like 12 weeks or more. And we really got into it. That was amazing. So that's a longer answer to your question would be to watch those 93 classes on one topic. Hare Krishna. And Madhuri Bhakti says, great, I'm dying to hear those classes. Yeah, that should be the title. Dying to hear. You should be dying to hear these classes. Yeah. And we all know that everybody lives as if they're not going to die. Nobody thinks about it, what to speak of preparing for it, because they don't even know what to prepare for, and how to prepare, and why to prepare. And obviously, it's always a shock. Even if you're older, it's a bit of a shock. Even when like Prabhupada disciples are dying, it's a shock. But they're all like mid-late 70s, so why is that a shock? That's, But still, it's a shock, isn't it? Because nobody was planning on this devotee dying, or to speak of that devotee. And you go to the doctor and he's like, you've got this disease, you've got 2 months to live. Like, you had no idea. And so Prabhupada's point is, you don't know when you're going to die, but you know you're going to die. And so Krishna consciousness is a preparation for dying. Yeah. That's another line for book distribution, but it's kind of depressing. This book will help you prepare to die. Have you ever thought about it? Have you thought about preparing for dying? Yeah. Because you have all kinds of books on how to live, but you don't have books on how to die. So you can go to the bookstore, there's 1 million books on how to improve your life. Are there any books on how to die, like The Science of Dying? Well, there's a book on how to die, because there's a way to die where you can elevate yourself after you die. Hare Krishna. I don't know if people are in Kali Yuga are that smart anymore that they'd like resonate with like learning to die. But one time I was taking a songwriting class, it was like 24 years ago I was taking it. And you'd have to write songs for the songwriting class, and I was thinking of a line for a song, like something like, I learned how to live, but I never learned how to die. So it's an interesting concept. They taught me how to live, but they never taught me how to die. Or Prabhupada taught me how to live. He not only taught me how to live, he taught me how to die. So that's a better line. This book will not only teach you how to live, it will teach you how to die. That's interesting, isn't it? I never thought of that, yeah. You're amongst the other 8 billion who've never thought of it. And that's a problem, we don't think of it.
It's an investment for the next time.
Yeah. According to ancient wisdom, you don't die. It's just the body. So there's a way to die that you can go up or down. And this book will teach you how to go up. And our society is teaching you how to go down because they don't think there's anything. If you don't think there's anything after death, then you just do whatever you want to try to be happy. But if you understand that you exist afterwards, then you have to plan for that. You planning for your future? Yeah. What about your future after you die? You planning for that? Oh, I never thought of it. Yeah. Well, that's why I'm here to tell you. You should plan. This is. You have life insurance? Yeah. Well, this is after life insurance. That's a good one. Yeah.
What if they don't believe at all in this?
Yeah, they probably don't. At least you won't waste your time with them. Because if you say all those things, you'll either get a positive or a negative right away.
Dutch people believe more.
What?
Dutch people, they believe more.
Yeah, okay. Excuse me, sir. Do you have afterlife insurance? Because we're selling it here.
Long-term investment.
Yeah. You're planning for your future, right? You're planning for your retirement? Yeah? Okay. Then, so what are you planning to do after you die? That's a good line. Yeah? Excuse me, sir, I have a question. We're asking everyone on the street today, what are you planning to do after you die? And I'm like, I never thought of that. Do I live after I die? Yeah, you do. We can help you, I'm an insurance broker, I can help you. Yes?
My mom, she knew someone, and they were like working very hard throughout their life, and they were planning after their retirement to buy a camper and travel around and just enjoy. And when the time came, the husband died out of a heart attack very immediately.
Ah.
And she was like, his wife was completely scattered. But then it's like, yeah, you plan for the future.
Yeah, exactly.
But then
Yeah.
you never know if you actually will live.
That's such a good story because we plan to go back to Godhead. So it's like, oh, he had a heart attack and died. Yeah, he didn't have to live in this world anymore. He went back to Godhead. So we're happy. Especially when you're sick, you're sick and all your relatives want you to live. And it's like, I don't want to live. This is painful. No, let's stay with us. I want to go back to Krishna. It's a lot better than laying in this hospital bed.
Tell the people the sooner that you die, the better.
Yeah, that's why I say, eat more prasadam, especially unhealthy prasadam. You'll die sooner and go back to Godhead sooner. Why stick around here? Eat more gulab jamuns. Go back to Godhead sooner. Should we make a t-shirt? Eat more pakoras and gulabs. Go back to Godhead sooner. So, yeah.
Be healthy and live
For service, yeah. I mean, healthy people die also. They just die healthy. You know, like they're running, 80 years old, running 5 miles, and then one day they just have a heart attack and die. He died running his daily 5 miles. He died healthy. You know, what Prabhupada preached was so simple, and there was so much common sense to it. And so many people just didn't get it, or denied it, or didn't want to accept it. It's just like they wanted to resist it because they didn't want to think about it. But it's like so simple, you know. Because he would always say, you know, the real problem is that you're going to die. All these other things are not your real problem. And many people couldn't get it. What else?
I would like to share the situation that I'm now in with my mom. She's your age. Now the feet is like not functioning. And she's like not able to do all the things that she's used to do on her own.
Yeah, yeah.
And now it's like, oh, I have enough. Like mentally she's
Giving
down.
up, yeah.
Giving up.
Yeah.
And then every sometimes she comes out with the questions, what are you doing with the bodies when you die, like according to your religion or philosophy? And then, okay, she hears that we burn the bodies, and I try to explain it. But she said, but yes, you must believe in this. So she's kind of progressing with questions that she's making,
Yeah.
but still resisting to accept this idea, like that according to your karma you get the body that you get and you go through the things that you go in your life. This is still, from her perspective, yeah, but you have to believe in this. But does it make sense or not? It's not that you have to believe or not. It's believing or not believing, that's a fact.
Well, also, you have a better explanation?
Yeah,
She doesn't
the
have it.
explanation is just like mom and dad have sex, sperma here, there, and I can't.
It's all accidental.
And
It was an accident. You were born in this family.
It's not accidental. It was result of an act between two people, and
But
that's
it was also an accident those two people came together. And an accident in a sense, because it's not that every time people have sex there's pregnancy. So, I mean, the way I look at it personally is that the alternative explanations don't explain anything. So, you know, you say, okay, you don't believe in karma. What do you believe in? Well, how do you explain it? Then she probably doesn't have an answer, right? Yeah, okay. Here's an interesting idea. Well, like you say, it's just logical. It's not belief, you know. There's action and reaction everywhere. That's how life is. But it's an interesting idea. And you say, yes, I believe in this. And the reason I believe in this is because this is the only thing that makes sense. And I want this to be true. This is why I believe in it. Because there is no other explanation. So that's why I believe in it. Because I want it to be true. And that's why people believe in anything. Because they want it to be true. Isn't it? So, her resistance is because she wasn't raised to believe it. But, you know, Prabhupada would, like sometimes people would say, well, Krishna's not God, and he would say, you can't say that unless you know who God is, so tell me who is God. And they say, I don't know. Then how can you say he's not? Like, karma doesn't, I don't believe in karma. Well, what do you believe in? Nothing. Well, that's not a valid way to deny something. You don't have a replacement. This is not true. Well, if this is not true, then you must know what is true to say it's not true. So you're saying it's not true. And you ask her, okay, I believe in this. What do you believe in? I don't believe in anything. Is that, well, how does that make you feel? Especially at your age. You don't believe in anything and you don't know where you're going. That's not good.
She usually answers like, meaning of life is you make yourself comfortable, happy, enjoy, and
Yeah,
that's
accept
it.
things that come.
And it's all over.
Yeah.
And when it's over, it's over. And say, okay, that's fine. What if it isn't? What if you're wrong? And there's consequences to your action. And it's not over. You know what Prabhupada said? I heard. I didn't hear it directly. This is so nice. You're going to love this. Are you listening? Prabhupada said, when your parents die, they will understand how fortunate they are to have you as a child. They'll understand that you saved them. So even if they don't believe, Krishna will show them. That's beautiful, isn't it? Because that's what we want. We want them to believe, you know. We want them to accept us and appreciate what we're doing and why maybe we couldn't be the best son or daughter, and they'll understand. Oh yeah. So that's your solace, if for nothing else. Yes.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what you were saying, that this was the experience with my grandmother, who recently left her body because she was living exactly this kind of life, like very just enjoyment until the very last moment. But then she passed away just with my mom, who was chanting for her.
Oh.
She put on Prabhupada's chanting, and then she left her body to Prabhupada's chanting and my mother's chanting.
Wow. That's fantastic.
But
What a blessing.
I have a strong feeling after you said this that it is true with her grandma, that now she understands what is this all about.
Yeah.
Because
Beautiful.
I feel a sense of relief, peace, and appreciation.
Hmm. Beautiful.
She was very scared of that.
Yeah. 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 I mean, think, I always think that the knowledge we have makes it so much easier for us to deal with the difficulties of life. What to speak of death? Because, you know, at a certain point when you know you're dying, what do? You just think of Krishna. Think, okay, Krishna, I'm ready. Let's dance. I'm ready to go into Leela. What a blessing that is to have that knowledge. To know, you know, like when my father died, my sister was, it was so hard for her. And I was thinking, well, he had neck beads on, he was given tulsi leaves, he was given charnamrita, maybe Radhakund water. I was like, well, it doesn't get any better than this. So it was a different experience for me. And you know, he was 92 and his body was breaking down and he didn't want to live. It was a relief for him. So for me, it was kind of a happy day. You know, he left in a very good way. And he was, and he no longer suffering. So it's such a blessing to have that knowledge. But to die without that knowledge, wow. Like you say, it's just fear. You don't know where you're going. And I think a lot of people, the idea that I lived a good life and that's it, could be a subconscious way to just not be afraid to die, because it's just, okay, it's over and that's it. You know, no big deal. It's finished and I'll be nothing and I won't know when I'm nothing. But, you know, there was a philosopher said something to the effect that, maybe some of you know this philosopher and this statement better than I do, but if you believe in God and God exists, that's good. And if you don't believe in God, and you believe in God and He doesn't exist, well, that's not a problem. But if you don't believe and He does exist, that's a problem. So, and then one man asked Prabhupada, he said, well, what if Krishna doesn't exist? And Prabhupada said, we still love Him. And our life is good, so we don't care. No, or what if he's not God? Well, we still love him. And everything's good. This always says, how do you know? And sometimes Prabhupada, but or our general answer is, well, how do you know? When you do bhakti, you will know, because you will feel his presence and your life will change. And how can your life change drastically chanting some words unless those words are non-different than God? If you think, is Krishna really in the Mahamantra? Well, if he wasn't, how would you have become purified? Right? So how do I know? Well, you practice it and you see. If you ever have a doubt, you just look at your life, where you were and where you've come. And how could you come to this point unless this process is effective, unless Krishna is present in his name, in his Leela? You ever listen to Krishna Leela and you're just like in ecstasy? All these amazing pastimes between Radha and Krishna and the cowherd boys, and you just feel like you're not in this world, just listening to a story. How is that possible unless it's transcendental? You go on parikrama, you hear all these stories. It's hot, you're tired, you're thirsty, you're hungry, and you're in ecstasy, hearing the Leelas. If you can get your mother to say Krishna when she's leaving her body, that will be fantastic. Say, Mom, you don't have to believe anything. All I ask you is one favor. Say Krishna at the time you're leaving your body. Just do that, I'll be so happy. And you'll be happy, and you'll see how happy you'll be.
We can invite Mahavishnu Swami to say hi.
There's a story Prabhupada tells. Well, he was told this story. That one of the devotee's mothers, a devotee's mother was dying. And as she was dying, he said, chant Hare Krishna or say Krishna. So just something like, say Krishna or Hare Krishna. 3 syllables, 4 syllables, Hare Krishna. And she said, I can't say so many words, and then she died. And often, or I can't say such things, whatever. And then, oftentimes when they would ask Prabhupada, well, what was the destination of so-and-so, such and such a person? And they say, well, Prabhupada, such and such a person said Krishna at the time of death. He says, oh, he went to Krishna. Like that simple.
So, is it more powerful to chant actually by the presence of the devotee who's just leaving the body at the moment, or like how we announce, like we're praying now, where it's the same? From a distance, praying for.
Oh yeah, if they're leaving if you know they're leaving their body, yeah, then just have kirtan there, for sure.
They cannot say Hare Krishna.
But they can hear. As far as I understand, when you're in that quote-unquote, I don't know if it's coma, whatever it is, that last stage, you can hear. That's what I was told. Can't speak, but you can hear. Hare Krishna. And then Krishna Tudiya Parapankacha Pancharantam. May the swan of my mind be attracted to the stem of your lotus feet. Pranapayana Samaya Kapabhata Pita. When I die, the blood may fill my lungs and I may choke and I won't be able to say your name. So I pray that I'll be able to think of you at the time of death. So that prayer can be there. Yes?
So if someone was living like Caroline's grandma, like quite simple, eating animals, enjoying life, avoiding topics of that, preparing for that, and then let's say she uttered the words of Krishna at the end of her life. So you're saying Prabhupada said they go back to Krishna.
Or at least become a devotee. It's always difficult to say exactly, but sometimes Prabhupada did say that. Well, the idea is if you said Krishna, you're thinking of Krishna. Whatever you think of at the time of death, you go. So
because there are different explanations. Some say, yeah, you can say whatever you want, but if you're not actually feeling it.
yeah, I think Prabhupada, oftentimes, if you listen to Prabhupada's answers, they're just very straightforward. Krishna says in the Gita, who's ever thinking of me at the time of death goes to me. So based on that, I think he was giving his answer. So you chant Krishna, in theory you think of Krishna, you'd be thinking of Krishna and then you'd go to Krishna. And so whether you were thinking of Krishna or not, or what you were feeling, he wasn't addressing those things. He was just addressing the general idea.
So what about the purificatory process? How can someone go there if they are not pure at all?
And they're going to get purified in their next life, in Krishna Lila. They'll be elevated to Krishna Lila. It's just mercy. It's not ordinary. It's not the standard process. In every case we don't know. It was a general answer. You think of Krishna and you go to Krishna. If Krishna wants to get you ready, after you die, he can. It's like, okay, you chanted my name. You're coming to me. We have to get you ready. Take birth in Vrindavan and we'll get you we're going to get you ready. That's where you get ready. Take birth in Krishna Lila here and get ready. That's why you have the story of the gopis. They weren't ready for the Rasa Lila because they were just coming into Krishna Lila and they're not 100% pure. So when Krishna played his flute, they weren't qualified yet to go into the Rasa Lila. So what happened, if you know the story, they wanted to go, but their husbands wouldn't let them go. And it looks like, oh, their husbands are bad, they wouldn't let their wives go to dance with Krishna, what's wrong with him? No, it was all arranged because they weren't qualified, so Yogamaya arranged that their husbands would block them. You can't go. The husbands weren't demons. It was just all part of the Leela. So now they can't go and they're thinking of Krishna. And they burned up every last trace of material desire and they're hankering to go with Krishna. And that's how they got purified. And then the next time Krishna did Ras Leela, they all could go. So you get purified there. That's where you go.
Caroline's grandma, she was supposed to die already 3 times.
Uh-huh.
But it didn't happen. And it really made sense because she was so scared of dying. So every time it happened, it's like this fear was purified.
Maybe.
And it came to this point where, because she was scared of dying alone as well.
Yeah.
And then Krishna arranged it, and we would always run and go 3 hours, all of us, and give everything and be there. And then miraculously, she would get up from death. And then the last time, she was there with her daughter, alone. And
Hare Krishna. Your mother's a devotee or is she just chanting? She's a devotee. When did she become a devotee?
When I became a devotee.
Wow. I wish my mother became a devotee.
She was really peaceful.
Oh, nice. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So she's, because you became devotee, this is so nice. You become a devotee, and now your mother, your grandmother, they get all the benefit of all that energy they put in, time, money, and energy into raising you, now becomes devotional service. And they get the benefit by you becoming a devotee. Isn't that nice? So, when I became a devotee and my mother wasn't happy, and then later when she died, that was one of the thoughts that pacified me. But by me being a devotee, you're getting the benefit. You know, like the wife gets the benefit of the husband's service. You get strength from your guru, from his devotion. So like that. What, you know, I became a devotee, my mother was upset, but what better thing could I have done for her than become a devotee, even though materially she wasn't happy. So that gives us solace that, you know, you want to pay back your parents. It's the best way you could pay them. And then Prabhupada said your parents will become devotees in their next life, at least that. Said they are now liberated. Liberated meaning they will become devotees. So, you know. How long ago did your grandmother die?
Like a month ago.
Yeah. So maybe there's some devotees that are pregnant now. Maybe that's... I've calculated my mother, like all the devotees who are 49 years old, and I'm like, when did you die? Because my mother died 49 years ago, or 48. And I calculated with one devotee, this devotee was born 8.5 months after my mother died. And the first time I met her, I said, you remind me of my mother. And she was the one who died, was born 8.5 months, yeah, who knows? But you know, your parents will die and they'll be devotees. Maybe she's my disciple now and I can pay her back for all her service. Or maybe she wants to do more service.
Not only your parents, also grandparents.
Yeah, yeah. This is also interesting. Listen to this one. It says 7 generations past and forward, but some places it says 21. And it depends on your purity. So if you're more pure, more generations. So, you know, your family's depending on you. You know, that 8th generation is like, come on, Doshan, go for it, you know, chant good rounds, you know. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Go for it. Doshan, go for it. Yeah.
Like all the devotees pray that Ganga Mata would come.
Say that again?
Like all the devotees would pray that their brother would pray that Ganga Mata will come.
Yeah.
Come.
Uh-huh.
The name. So all the family members.
Yeah. I mean, Bhagavatam says that. If you're not a devotee, then you're indebted to your parents because they've given you a body, but you're indebted to the earth because that's the ingredients of the body, and you're indebted to Vayu because he gives you air, and Surya or Vivishwan gives you sun, Indra gives you rain. You're indebted to all the saints because they give you the Vedas. So there's so much debt you have to pay back. Sometimes, I think Prabhupada saw people sunbathing and he said, you have to pay the bill. You have to worship the sun. You're getting the sun, you got to pay your bill by worship. Of course, we don't do that. We don't know that. In India, they know that. But in I think it's the 5th canto, it says, but you have debts to your parents, the devatas, and so forth. But when you're a devotee, that debt is removed because now you do everything for Krishna. You don't have any debts. So, you know, it's like, what should I do for my parents? Am I indebted? Well, just out of a sense of duty, if they need your help, you know, you help them. But in terms of karmically, you're free from that debt. Like if you couldn't help them or something, it's not like you'd have to come back and suffer. And then, you know, you would get a child who wouldn't help you. It's not like that. But otherwise, it would be like that. What to speak of every insect we kill by breathing or by walking. It all creates karma. And you're a devotee, you're not paying for that as long as you're doing service. But when you're engaged in something other than service, then there's karma. When you go to the movies and watch your Bollywood movie, there's karma for all the insects you kill while you're breathing, while you're watching the movie. Be careful. Hare Krishna. Anything else?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, for example, devotees have a desire to become a pure devotee or to get a pure bhakti.
Mm-hmm.
So, Krishna very quickly arranges situations for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it can become very scared, very like uncomfortable. For example, you end up in a hospital, or you end up in other institutions. Like I heard some stories that devotees end up in jail. Like,
I was only in jail 5 times. It was glorious.
so yeah, so Krishna purifies, and it's kind of exciting because you get very interesting and deep realizations. So, but at the same, it's like very scary.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, that's one side of the story. The other side of the story is Krishna blesses you in many other ways. And sometimes, I mean, the best thing is to think, whatever I need for my purification, Krishna, then give it to me. And so, if I end up in jail, in whatever, in Krishna's service, like okay, this is what I need for my purification. Because that's what we saw with Prahlad. Well, whatever he wants to do, if you think it's always for your benefit. I personally think if you see everything for Krishna's benefit, he's like, okay, now that you see this way, I don't have to cause all this suffering because I would just cause it for you so you could move forward in your bhakti, but you already understand this, so I don't necessarily have to make life difficult for you. I could make it easier for you also. But if you need it, he'll make it, he'll make it difficult if you need it. Or maybe he just wants to test you, see what you do. But I was arrested. Every time I got arrested, I didn't think, Krishna, why did you get me arrested? I knew I was arrested. I was distributing books and private property. So we knew there was a chance we would get arrested when we did it, but we were happy to get arrested. No problem. Prabhupada said you can chant Hare Krishna in jail. This goes with the turf. To get arrested in Krishna's service, it's a bit of an honor. But I never blame Krishna. If I didn't become a devotee, I was never arrested before I was a devotee. I don't think I'd ever get arrested. But as a devotee, Mexico was arrested, San Diego arrested, Hollywood arrested, Las Vegas arrested, Southern California arrested. Yeah, at least 5 that I can remember. And here I am, this is like innocent young man. It's like, I never committed a crime. I don't know criminals. I lived a very protected life, and now I'm, in jail with all these. We were in Mexico, the jail. The guys were shooting up in the cell. It's crazy. And I have a book of realizations, and I wrote realizations in that jail in Mexico. That was the worst jail. I wrote realizations. I was like, yeah, I'm like Prahlad, and I feel like Prahlad right now. So it was kind of, it was positive, not negative. How to deal with it, how to be Krishna conscious. So if you think that everything's Krishna's mercy and I need it for my advancement, then you can just flow right through it.
Able to print that book when you read it?
Well, one devotee was supposed to digitize it. I don't know. I think she photographed everything and put it through some program that did. We're thinking about it. Oh, you want to hear something funny about that book? Because some devotees were in my office, and I have a bookshelf, so they sometimes go through it and like, well, what's that? It's just a notebook. It looked like a notebook from like World War II or something, or World War One. You know, it's something you never see. I go, oh, those I used to write my realizations. I said, let's read something for fun, you know. So she starts reading something. They're all written in like 1972, 73, well, maybe 72 to 74. Starts reading something, and it's exactly what I speak about today. I'm like, oh my God, that is so funny. It's almost like identical to what I would say 50 years later, and I'm saying it when I'm 22, and I'm looking at this and I'm going, oh my Krishna, that must have been realized in another life. Otherwise, you know, how could I have said that? It was so funny. And everyone said, isn't that what I say today? And they go, yeah. And that was what I felt. I felt like, oh, okay. You're a young devotee, you have realization. That was all, you got that all in another life. Otherwise, you know, how could you go so deep, so quick? And if you listen to morning walk conversations with Prabhupada, you look at the dates. If it says 1972, the average devotee is going to be two to 3 years in the movement. So these are conversations going on with 23-year-olds, 22-year-olds. And you listen to conversation, it doesn't sound like a conversation of new devotees. It sounds like a conversation with people who have been around a while and have lots of realization. That was all brought in from another life. It has to be. Well, that was funny. Someday we'll print a book. I don't know if it's worth printing, but at least that section in jail would be good, I think. Because that Mexico jail was crazy. There were like 6 of us in a cell and 1 toilet. Fortunately, there were 3 of us in the jail, at least 3 of us, and they let us eat prasadam. Prasadam was brought to us. Well, what happened was we got arrested on Lord Nrsingadev's appearance day. And the idea was that if you're going on Sankirtan, you don't need to fast. But Lord Nrsingadev had different ideas for us. He said, you didn't fast, oh, go to prison, you know, because we didn't get prasadam for like 24 hours, so we actually did a fast at like. And then the very next year, I didn't get the message, the very next year, we're going on Sankirtan, you have to eat. We did that. Guess what happened? We fasted in jail. Every devotee got arrested for doing Harinam in Las Vegas.
For the same festival?
No, it's different. This was different. We just did Harinam on private property. We did Harinam, check this out. We did, Lord Nrsingadev is like, interesting. We do Harinam on the street, but all the casinos, they don't like it. For whatever reason, we're too noisy or whatever. But we parked, you can park in the casino parking lots, you pay for it. So, you know, you do Harinam all the way back to your car, right? Yeah, but the parking lot was private property, and the police came and picked us up. You're chanting on private property. They arrested the whole Harinam party. Okay, Lord Nrsingadev, I don't think I should break my fast anymore. I got the message. Hare Krishna.
So it's okay to have those kind of desires to become a pure devotee and ask Krishna for that?
If you're ready, you better be ready for it if you asked for it. Bhakti Tirtha Swami used to pray like that. Krishna, you know, whatever you need to take away that's in the way, take it. Whatever you need to put in the way that I need, put it. Whatever you need to give me, give me. Whatever you need to take, yeah, you have to be ready for that. Krishna's going to go, okay, we got some stuff for you today. If you're going to pray like that. Or you don't have to pray that way, you can live that way. Krishna, whatever you think I need, let's go for it. You know. Or you can pray, Krishna, whatever you think I need, give it to me in increments. Spoon feed me. Give me enough that I don't freak out too much. You can, you know. If you're going to pray like Bhakti Tirtha Swami, wow, you know, fasten your seatbelts. Maybe Krishna's going to reciprocate in a powerful way, who knows? Hare Krishna. But I have a story, it was really nice. When I was in Mayapur, I think I was still living, I was living in Mayapur. And I was chanting my rounds and I was thinking, you know, well, I like this service, but I don't like that. And I could surrender this way, but not that way. You know, just like my mind's going. And I thought, this is stupid. Just like Krishna, whatever you want. Just like, tell me, you know, something. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, whatever you want. Now, like 15 minutes later, one of the GBC men comes up and he says, we were talking in the meeting that we need you to go to, there's a problem in this country, we need you to go there. Like 10 minutes. I was like, I'm totally in that mood. Yeah, sure, I'll go. So sometimes it happens fast. Krishna, whatever you want. I mean, of course, you have to use discretion because maybe it's not Krishna, maybe it's just whatever. You know, here's another Bhakti Burfi video. Yeah. Bhakti Burfi is driving through the mountains. He takes his hand off the wheel. Hare Krishna. Hare. Bhakti Burfi, what do you? Krishna will protect you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So, you know, there's a limit to your surrender. You know, when it borders foolishness, you know, to be careful. Okay, I think it's time for prasadam. Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave